Okay. Good day, podcast community. I'm Pete Kane, and we're live at Grace Church here in Kennesaw. It's a pleasure to be with you. I want to first thank Grace Church for hosting this, for being willing to put us in a room and helping us to be able to educate people. And I want to thank Kevin Bora, who's working behind the scenes. We'll see if you come here on Sunday morning, you'll be able to meet myself and Kevin. So that's Sunday morning at, I think, 10 o'clock, I'm not sure, but that's, I believe, the time. I'm not as good with time. And our live event today, you're going to have 15 talks total. You're going to have some speakers. What we want to do is bring to you 5 minutes, 3 points. So each speaker will have 5 minutes, 3 points. You're going to hear more from me today because today in Kennesaw, it's a holiday, or some people call it a vacation, winter vacation. So most of our speakers are on a holiday. So that's why you get to see or hear from me more than you probably want to. So I want to thank Growth Day for sponsoring our event. Growth Day provides personal development. It's kind of like the Netflix of personal development. We first work on ourselves before we can work on anybody else in our company or community. So the first, I want you to put yourself in the mindset of what's happening today. We have shifted completely into a digital economy, which means we need to think of being a creator. Think creating, and in our case, we create podcasts, we publish books and magazines, and we build thriving communities locally and globally. And what do I mean by globally? That's the digital part, because you could be halfway across the world and be able to take in, consume our content. And it's so important today to think creatively, think create, because every time you create a podcast in our community, that's a digital asset, meaning it's there online for people to consume. So that's why we teach our community through our live events, which we have once a month, Saturday morning, the fourth Saturday of each month. We do virtual events, which are every Friday from 8 to 9:30. Every single time, we're giving you 5 minutes, 3 points from different speakers. We want to help our speakers refine their message and create digital content. Our podcasts are done during the week where we have guests on depending on the person and what their niche is in podcasting. That's why we have a podcasting academy where we can teach our future podcasters how to be able to be creating that content that people can consume. On the publishing end in our community, we're not talking about publishing a legacy book that you might write at the end of your life, or a book that's more comprehensive. These are authoritative books on your niche, because you'll hear later in our live event, you'll hear a formula called 7-11-4. That means if people can't consume 7 hours of you, they don't have an opportunity to get to know you, trust you, and do business with you. So that's the digital transformation that's going on. You have to think of the know, like, and trust. And the trust can be consuming your book, getting to know you better. The more people can consume your content, the better chance that they're going to trust you and want to do business with you. That's why we say podcasting, publishing, and building thriving communities locally and globally. So in the community part, we're creating community every day. We do it by inviting people on our podcast. We want people that want to make an impact, that have a message to share, and we want to offer them a platform to do that. So the key that I want you to think about today, I want to challenge you to think the old way of doing business is changing. The new way is you're creating content with our help. That's why you can go to PeteKane.me and be a guest on our podcast. Because just like you go to Costco and you try a product before you buy it, we allow people to come on our podcast to try it. Maybe you like it. And if you do, there's a path for you to be a key person of influence, as we'll talk about later. Okay, the next topic we're going to talk about is really who Google says you are. See, I meet you at an event, or I meet you somewhere out there, and we have a great conversation. What do you think I'm going to do later? I'm going to Google you, because it's so easy, because we have mobile phones, supercomputers that are in our hand. And when I Google you, I'm looking at your profile. I'm looking at what kind of content is out there that allows me a chance to get to know you, possibly like you, and want to do business with you. So the new way that's happening is through your digital profile. A lot of people call it a digital footprint. So search my name, Pete Kane, Kane, and put the word podcast. When you put that word, see what it says. Look at my content. Look at my podcast. Look at the content that's out there. Then search your name and look at the difference. It used to be a website, maybe a LinkedIn profile was enough content online to help people to get to know you. But it's changed dramatically because we're in a creator economy. That involves you thinking creative, create content, and let people consume your content. Because if you're creating the content, it's globally. Because once you do a podcast and once you put your podcast out there, people can enjoy it. And if they like it, they want to listen to more of what you have. So one of the things you have to think about is, how can I become a creator? You can come on my podcast at PeteKane.me, be a guest. See if you like that. Then look at how quickly it's going to appear on your profile, because we put your information in the show notes. We put a title. We do that all for free. Why do we do that? Because we give away about 90% of what we do in our community. Now, we're a for-profit company, but we give, like, kind of put yourself in the shoes of Google or Facebook. A lot of that stuff is free, but they optimize their free content for their paid part. We do something similar. So you can test being on our podcast. You can see that today the world has changed, and we have to be very diligent and intentional about creating enough content in your profile that people have a chance to get to know you, like you, and trust you. So that is one of the things we teach our community, is be diligent and intentional about the content you put out there under your profile. Okay, so I'm doing this on the fly, trying to do it, because we have coming up in just a short while, I'm going to be talking about the 7-Eleven 4 concept. And then after that, we have Phil Brannon that's going to be coming up, and he's going to be talking about really the entrepreneurial mindset within a company. So when you're working for a company, you have to think like an entrepreneur, because everybody has to add value no matter what position you have in your career. You got to think of adding value. And he's going to talk to you about 3 points that are going to help you understand the mindset of that corporate professional. So let me go back to 7-11-4. Okay, what is 7? We talked briefly about it. 7 is hours. It's by a gentleman by the name of Roger Dunbar. You could Google search him. He came up with the phrase that in the digital world that we live in today, we're in a digital revolution. People have to consume 7 hours of you. Now, 7 hours is a big number, but you got to start somewhere. We're not talking about this as being this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. The more content you put out there and you give people an opportunity to get to know you through your digital content, you're starting the journey of getting to know you online. Because today we're doing business all over the world. Sounds kind of big, but just break it down into the content that people have an opportunity to consume of you. So when you put a podcast out there, and let's say it's 30 minutes, that's 30 minutes that somebody can get to know you. You put another one out there, and you keep putting content out there. You're allowing people that magic formula of 7-11-4. You're allowing people to get to know you, trust you, and possibly do business with you. Without that, they're not going to know you. We do business in different countries. Now, have I met these people? No, but I know them online through their content. So look at your mindset of, I've got to be a great content creator. That involves podcasting, publishing, can be our books, a magazine, and being a part of a thriving community allows people that have a like mind, that are on the same path. We train 20 people at a time in a magazine to activate their authoritative book, to begin their podcasting journey. And the journey of 1,000 miles starts with that first step. It's that first podcast. So by being a guest on our podcast, you get to feel what a podcast is like. We get to know your story. We get to know a little bit about you. And then the more you come back and are on our podcast, we get to create more content for you to be able to get to know people, for people to get to know you, trust you, and do business with you. The 11 comes from Google, the 0 moment of truth. And that 0 moment of truth is when people give you 11 buying signals. What's a buying signal? They do an assessment with you. They get on your waiting list. They comment. They buy your book. They listen to your podcast. All these things are people leaning into you to want more. And when I don't remember the person's name, but it's a need to know. When people want to know more about you, that's the people that you want to be talking to. It's not like you just go out there and we call it throwing up on people, is somebody asks you what you do, and 10 minutes later, you're throwing so much information on them, they're running away from you. You have to have a thought-provoking, interesting, what some people call it an elevator pitch, that creates curiosity. And when somebody says, tell me more, Phil, then what happens is Phil has an opportunity through that buying signal to tell the person more. If the person doesn't say anything and they roll their eyes kind of in their mind, then you know at that time you haven't piqued their interest. There's no interest in you speaking more to them. So you basically should, if you can't create curiosity and give them an opportunity to create buying signals, then you're not talking to people that are interested in what you're doing. So 11 buying signals, when that happens, 7 hours, they consume 7 hours of you. They make 11 buying signals. Then they see you on 4 platforms. 4. What's a platform? A book, a podcast, a workshop, a LinkedIn post, a Instagram post. They see you differently in different places. And that's the magic formula. When it goes 7, 11, 4, it's kind of like, I know this person. I like this person. I'm interested in doing business with this person. We know it happens with our celebrities or people that are higher profile. Like when Steve Jobs passed away, there was flowers, mourning. It was like a relative, a family member was lost because people have been used to for years consuming his products, his content. He revolutionized for a lot of people how we listen to music when the iPod came out. It's like 1,000 songs in one place as opposed to all these tapes and records. Well, that was something that changed people's thinking. They got to download songs. They got to listen to it on their iPod. So when he passed away, people were grieving because they had known him so well through his content, through his innovation, through his impact that he made on so many people when it comes to like this iPhone. So 7, 11, 4, 7 hours of content, 11 buying signals, and 4 platforms. Okay. Now I think you have heard enough of me. We're going to bring up, and I see her in the audience. She is a person that's making an impact out there because when you think of our society that we live in a litigious, I have a hard time with that word. But anyway, we live in a society that's wrapped around legal. It's like, I heard somebody say the new path to wealth is sue somebody. So it's like we have so many attorneys out there that are looking for work and they're not cheap, that you want to have access to the legal system. I've had it for 25 years. I pay a small monthly fee to have access to the legal system because I am not somebody that can afford the $500,000 an hour attorney, which if somebody can afford it, great. But the majority of us are looking at just having access. So Wanda is out there on a mission to give people access to our legal system. And she's going to talk about 3 points that I want you to pay attention. There'll be an opportunity for you to schedule a time to talk about your situation if you want to know more. Again, that would be an assessment, and that would be a buying signal that you're interested. If you're not interested, you're not making a buying signal, but maybe you are. That's why we want to bring Wanda Pearson to the stage. Wanda, would you please come on up? Come on down, Wanda. Thank you, Wanda. Hey, good. Wanda Pearson is in the house.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited about being here, and thank you, Pete, for inviting me. You know, I always like to share my passion of helping people make sure that they're legally protected. So this is something dear to my heart. I actually retired from IBM and been doing this in the community for 26 years. So I want to talk to you about how you can keep yourself legally protected, as well as the 3 key reasons why we need to have ourselves protected. So let me ask you something. Have you ever faced a situation where you needed legal advice from a lawyer and you know you couldn't afford it? You know, and Pete, I'm glad that you mentioned that too, because having access to affordability is so essential. So, what I wanted to ask you is this, if you had a lawyer at your beck and call, where you can tap that, call of them at any time, it would be actually something that say, okay, but I can't afford it. But here you have someone to guide you. Maybe it was signing a contract. Maybe it was looking over something that you know you needed help with. What about a dispute, a legal dispute? So yeah, like Pete said, Pete, it's like a suing world out here today. Or protecting your personal information. Well, if your business is legally protected with access to the legal system, affordability, and having that strength in your community, that is key to it. So let me talk about the first point: access to the legal system. So you want to, well, let me put it this way. For most people, the legal system feels complex. Like you said, okay, I can't afford it. What do I need to do? And you don't do anything. But many don't seek help because they assume it's too expensive or time consuming. Think about everyday situations, such as disputes with a contractor, a landlord, or even an unexpected legal document. And I said, never sign a contract without having a lawyer look over that legal document. So without access to legal guidance, you have small issues that escalate very quickly. What about having the importance of having? So when you have access to the legal system, you can confidently make informed decisions and resolve those issues faster by avoiding those costly mistakes. Let me talk about the affordability as I'm going into that here. So legal protection doesn't mean you have to break the bank. It's by finding the right resources that you can protect yourself and your business without the hefty price tag. Um, Connecting to a lawyer, having that legal access also gives you leverage. Well, imagine you negotiating contracts. We negotiate contracts, it's signing a house, a car, anything that we have there, it actually helps you resolve disputes with confidence. Knowing you have an expert support in your corner, I say in your back pocket, that kind of leverage can save time, money, and even relationships. Now, consider this: having a lawyer review a contract. Could you say that you have saved, well, I'm no, let me put it this way. Having a lawyer review a contract could save you from agreeing to unfavorable terms. A lot of times we don't see those little small prints in the contract. So it's just like it's protection, but it's power. Power to make sure that you can say, I have a lawyer that can review these contracts for me. Or let's say if you have if you're a business, you needed a collection letter sent for you. That's another leverage that you have instead of you trying to do it yourself. So let me tell you about the power of the legal community. So legal community isn't just about having one lawyer, it's about having a network of lawyers, of experienced professionals across different areas of law. Well, you know how we say, well, I have a family member that's a lawyer, but do they do everything that you want in that law? That pays there. But when you have somebody that have the network of different lawyers that specialize in those lawyers that have 22 years of experience, I would say that's a great way to actually have any lawyer that you have a dispute with any kind of any kind of legal issue. So whether it's business law, estate planning, or the right legal community helps specialize. I'm sorry, that help you get specialized expertise. You're never alone in facing challenges. Well, let me ask you something. If you had access to an attorney, a law firm, that gives you that confidence to know that you have the knowledge and the experience that you're always prepared for, no matter what life or business brings you. In conclusion, access to the legal system is so vital to have, especially in these days now. And that actually brings our support in the community together. So they're a game changer. Having a game changer of knowing that you have access to a lawyer in any kind of legal issue, that is actually what's so important to have, but it's affordable. Your business, you want to run your business instead of worrying about the legal issues. So having that access and affordability and being in the community is is essential to having protecting your business. So take a moment to think about your current legal preparedness. Do you have a lawyer to call? you're truly protected. It's never too late to take that first step towards securing your future. So connect with me, Pete. Thank you so much for having me on, and we can talk more. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I've had it for 20 some years. And back in 1990, I was in my own business and I was sued by a competitor. And anybody can sue you at any given time. I would have liked to have had prepaid legal or legal shield back then. And the bills don't stop because anybody can sue anybody. I've had speeding tickets by myself and my daughters in different states. And I've had Legal Shield represent us in a different state. If you don't, it was actually paying the big fine because there's speed traps out there. And if you can't have a legal protection, you tend to have to pay more. So encourage you to go investigate more. Schedule a time with Wanda to know more about your situation to see if this is something that can help you navigate through our community with legal access. Our next speaker, oh man, this is a cool one here. So I was at the American Legion a bunch of months ago at their third, their breakfast on the third Saturday. And I sitting next to this guy. we're just talking. I was talking to his friend and he mentioned the word podcasting. And my other friend said, well, yeah, that's Podcast Pete. And we started laughing and that created a friendship. But I got to know Phil in this manner. Not only does he understand relationships, he understands the mindset that you have to be successful in business. He actually did an open mic at the American Legion, and I got stuck in traffic, so I didn't get to see him. But I saw the people come up afterwards when I finally got there, just thanking him for putting himself out there to having fun, enjoying it. And that's what he does. He has fun with working. So, Phil, come on up. He's going to talk about mindset matters and how it's important as an entrepreneur mindset, no matter if you're working for yourself or working for somebody else. Have that mindset because you'll be successful if you make that shift. Phil, thank you, brother. Man, I tell you, you got to love this guy. I mean, if he doesn't look distinguished and look like I'm going to pay attention to this guy, then you don't know what you're not seeing him on camera. So thank you, Phil. Appreciate it.
I may need to get Wanda on retainer for all the accolades here. I don't know what I did to deserve it, but thank you. I'm going to give you a little more feedback on how this came together. Actually, Pete was kind and didn't mention how sometimes your ignorance leads to something great. And we're sitting there. Actually, my buddies usually go to the Legion breakfast the third Saturday of the month. I was running a little late that morning, and their table was full. That place gets packed. As you know, it's a great breakfast. And so these two gentlemen that I didn't know are sitting at this table, and one gentleman I did know, who's an attorney. So we're just chatting it up, and I casually mentioned to Pete, and his buddy started cracking up. Did you ever listen to any podcasts? And of course, I didn't see his shirt. He was turned this direction. He had his little label, Podcast Pete, so he just went like that. And I went, okay. So it was an icebreaker. So that's a good segue to get into what we're going to talk about a little bit. My name's Phil Brannon. I live in West Cobb. I survived 4 daughters. They're all over the age of 23. Only one lives at home still. So all you gentlemen out there that are girl daddies, God bless you. Just take a patience pill. It'll be all right. And by the way, when you get to the nursing home, they'll be the ones to come visit you. The sons call, but the daughters come visit and take care of business. I know I'm the youngest of 3, and my 2 older sisters, they do a lot of heavy lifting for our mother up in North Carolina. But what we're going to talk about a little bit is the transition from a corporate mindset to entrepreneurial mindset, and how you're able to meander the post-COVID world when you're in sales roles, marketing roles, where you literally are going out to get the business. And being a baby boomer, it was kind of anathemic for us to, I call it job jump, if you want to call it that, or whatever you want to say, transition to other companies in a less than 2 to 3 year period. But that seems to be more of the norm these days than in our era. When I say our era, baby boomers. So usually it's like buying stock, you buy and hold. It's not like that way anymore. These guys are more day traders in the job market. They like to hop, and they do have more of an entrepreneurial mindset because it's about your brand. You are the brand, and it's awesome to have the company's name behind your brand. But if you cannot sell yourself first, especially in a first meeting, good luck selling how great the company is and how much this product does or that product does, no matter what you're selling. You have to have more of an entrepreneurial mindset when you're in that situation instead of a corporate mindset where it's all about the company. You better have an icebreaker. And the way you do that a lot of times is the use of humor. Similar to our situation at the Legion, I always try to find something in common. And a lot of times it's with we call her the lady at the front. I don't want to call the wrong name. You know, you can't say stewardess anymore for airline stewards. It's a flight attendant. So receptionist used to be what it was called, whatever it is. The gatekeeper up front, better make friends with her. Or, in some cases, it's a man, but most of the time it's a lady. And if you can make her laugh and find out something about her, she may be having a bad day. If you can just make her smile, you get the keys to the kingdom. She'll tell you about what's going on with the company. If your appointment's with a certain individual and you ask a few questions, next thing you know, you're going to find out something about them that you don't find out on LinkedIn that will help you when you're meeting with that person. And even in situations where you're at the same place of business over and over, she will do what it takes to get you through a gatekeeper, because ghosting is a term I do not like it. Salespeople, it's a terrible term. That's when customers hide. You know, you give them the proposal, you hit all your deadlines, and then you play the let me chase this person game. The person at the front of at the desk can get you through that forest, and find a way to connect with them on a personal level and with humor, and you'll be able to do that. And again, feeding on that aspect, the need to get back to the face-to-face meeting, that is key. If you can get a face-to-face meeting with your clients, move away from just having a corporate mindset and say, I want to sell this person and here's how I'm going to do it. And sometimes it takes multiple meetings. Sometimes it takes just a personal connection, doing something socially with them. Obviously, I like to eat. So eating is one way to do it. Get them out of the office. Take them to a ball game. Take them to a concert. Hey, take them to one of Pete's podcast events. So anyway, that's about all the time I have, but that's what I have to offer. And I think you guys can reach out to Pete or Phil Brannon1 at philbrannon.com. We might be able to be friends.
Thank you, brother.
Seeing you.
Man, it's so good. Phil came all the way from West Cobb to be with us, to share with you really a message that's so important, because I too have 2 girls, not as 4, but I have 2. Girls are different than boys. And whenever I find myself getting a text from one of my daughters, I pick up the phone and call them, because I like to connect. And text doesn't have emotion in it. And like what Phil was talking about, the building of relationships. Yes, we have the ability to text people. Is there opportunities that you should text? Absolutely. When you're under just a quick response. But I want to challenge our people out there, our audience, our community. Make a phone call, connect, have lunch with people, get to know people, build those relationships. And you don't do that through a text. You do that by we're emotional beings, we're relationships. Connect with people on a relational level. And that's what Phil talks about in business, is we always have to look at how we build those relationships. And yes, the phone, it's a 2-edged sword. It gives us the ability to use that phone anytime, look at it anytime. But being with people and being relational and having that lunch and talking to people is so important. So thank you, Phil, for so much. Now, our next topic, we're going to talk about book a podcast. Now, yes, I am a podcast feed. I can't get my mom to call me that, but at 95, I don't know how many people learn new tricks at 95. She still won't call me that. I tell her I'm a podcaster. She says, no, you're Peter Edward. That's when I was in trouble. She would always say my name, full name. So book a podcast. Why should you consider booking a podcast? Why would you want to be a guest on my podcast or Wanda's podcast or Phil's podcast or anybody in our community? Because unlike other things that were out there, when you get to know somebody's story, you remember it. There's something about stories that people remember. When you're learning about a person's story, there's a deeper relationship built. I've had over 400 podcasts in my few years that I've been doing it. I know everybody's story because I don't forget stories. I may forget this facts. I may forget what time I need to be at breakfast or lunch. I may forget details, but I don't forget stories. So when you do a podcast, when you come on our podcast, we get a chance to shout out to our community who you are and your story. 20, 25 minutes, we can share our kind of like breaking bread in a digital form. And the curiosity that you get by being a podcaster is kind of, I never realized it until I started. And my partner kept telling me, after a stroke I had about 3 years ago, I had a digital marketing business. It probably gave me a stroke. I said, I can't do that anymore because I can't, my brain's different than it was. But he said, Pete, you like to talk. Why don't you do golf podcasting? I said, yeah, I used to play golf. So I did. I started golf podcasting. We'd bring a foursome on and we'd have some fun. But I wasn't at that time playing golf. Still haven't played. But I love the idea of learning from people, but I wasn't playing golf. So I decided to shift to another form of podcasting. I was living in a senior community. So I shifted to being involved in the senior community by bringing vendors, people that wanted access to our seniors to learn more about their story. When you're able to learn about people, remember what we talked about, the 7-11-4. The more you can learn about somebody, the better it is for them to know you, like you, and trust you. Now, you have to be authentic. I have people that will say, no, podcasting's not my thing. That's fine. But are you really saying, I'm fearful? Because when I asked further why you don't want to come on my podcast, what I think they're saying, they don't tell me that this shoulder over here is the fear shoulder. And if you grow fear, it grows. If you feed fear, it grows in anything you do. So if you're afraid to speak in front of people, if you're afraid to be on a podcast, you're growing your fear muscle. This one is your courage muscle. You want to grow that muscle of courage. That's why we say be bold, make a difference, and have fun. Because yes, you on the podcast, yes, it's recorded. Yes, it's out there. But if you speak from your heart and you're telling the truth and you're transparent, there's nothing wrong with that. We're not going to do like 60 Minutes might do, try to trap you in a question that puts you in a bind. But just be honest. Just have a conversation with us. So if you want to go to our PeteKane.me, book a podcast. Allow me the opportunity to get to know you, to shout out, to create a digital asset. to possibly be interested in joining our community, because we're all about podcasting, publishing, and building thriving communities. And our thriving communities are local and global. So at worst, you're going to create a digital asset of somebody who's going to get to know you better. So join us, go to petekane.me and become a podcast guest, and let us shine on you and share your story for ourselves. And we can we can connect you with people. That's just an added benefit. If somebody says to me, you know what, I'm struggling with paying my legal bill or something to do with legal, what I do is I share Wanda's podcast. I said, here's a person you might be interested in, and I share her podcast so they can get to know her, to see if she's the type of person they want to do business with. If I don't have that podcast, Wanda, people can't get to know Wanda. They can't get to understand the problems she solves. They don't get to understand her heart for helping people. And that's what a podcast helps to do. Okay. All right. I'm going to have one more, and then we're going to bring Wanda back, and she's going to talk about a subject called wills. And I think the number's right. 68% of Americans don't have a will. Now, why is it important to have a will? It is a love letter to your family, because if you leave this earth without your direction of where you want your assets, where you want your loved ones to have, whether it's a diamond ring, something cherishable, a family, I think it's called family something. I know there's a word, special something in your family, and you want to pass it on to your kids. You got to communicate that. You can't have it up here and think that people are going to be able to read your mind. They're not going to be able to read your mind when you're gone anyway. So communicate with people. Put it on paper. Put it in an official legal document, a will. Okay, so let me see if I have one more here. Okay. The next one, we're going to talk about our virtual summit. We do a virtual summit on Friday. Why do we do a virtual summit? Because we want to bring you 10 speakers, 15 talks, 5 minutes, 3 points. So every Friday, you can go to petekane.me/virtual. And if you've been a guest on our podcast, if you've the type of person that we like to have in our community, we want people that want to make an impact, that want to have fun, that want to give. That's who we look for. So if I find that you're not that type of person, I won't invite you back on the podcast. Nothing personal. It's just we protect our community with giving people that want to make an impact. Because, hey, when you have a stroke and you look death in the mirror and you say, oh, I've survived, you have what I call mortality motivation. That's, I want to make an impact. I want to make the biggest impact I can while I'm here on earth. So on the virtual summit, 10 speakers, 15 talks, 8 o'clock currently on Friday. If you'd like to sign up and you've been on our podcast and you're listening to this and you say, I would like to present 5 minutes, 3 of my points, go to petekane.me/virtual and sign up, and we'll have you on. We'll create the slide for you. You give us the 3 points that you want to cover, and you speak for 5 minutes, because we want you to be to the point, be brief, because I heard something, about a year ago, 2 years ago, the Gettysburg Address, there was 2 people that gave that. Abe Lincoln, and his was like 20 seconds, I think. And there was another one before it. I think that person had my last name. I don't think they're a relative, but theirs was 30 minutes. Nobody remembers the 30-minute talk, but they remember the brief talk that Abe Lincoln gave. So brevity has value out there. We're busy. We don't need to know your whole life story to do business with you. We just want to know little little parts that could create those buying signals. Remember when we talked about 1174? 11 is buying signals. When people say, I have a need, I need a will. Let me schedule a time with Wanda so I can find out more information about it. Because we all want to know the information that'll help us solve a big problem. And our entrepreneurs are the ones that are solving big problems. Okay, so now, let me get my glasses on here. Okay, so Wanda, we're going to bring Wanda back because we want Wanda to share some of her knowledge. She's been doing it for many years. So you have a professional that can help you navigate your needs and to see if this is something that you can benefit from by leaving your loved ones your direction and leaving it in a will. So Wanda, please come on back and share with our community some ways that they can protect themselves.
Yes, thank you, Pete.
Okay, you bet.
Appreciate it. You know, this is one of my favorite things to share because I care about people. The social work in me is something that I graduated with after leaving corporate. I wanted to get in the community because a lot of people don't know how important it is to have a will. Just a quick story. My brother died without a will, and I ended up being the contingent. I didn't know I was a contingent. Well, what it caused was a situation with my nieces and nephew. And they wondered, why did I get the money and they didn't? So, I mean, I gave the money back to them, but it was just, it's heartening because if you don't have I call it, and I had called a legal love letter together with what your wishes are, that is something that you should make sure you have. So why you need a will? Protecting your legacy, right? What happens to your assets and your loved ones if you don't have a will? A lot of times people say, well, I don't have anything. Well, you do have a will. Everyone needs a will. Everyone needs to leave their wishes of what they want as far as their heirlooms, I think we call it, Pete, heirlooms, and your assets. If you don't have that will, it's so important because, and what really gets me is that they say, well, I don't have anything to live, but you do. But in your will, you have your healthcare power of attorney. You have your directive. When you go to the doctor, what do they say? Do you have a healthcare power of attorney? Do you have advance directive? That is something that's important to give your wishes the way you want to be, want for you. And you're making sure you have someone that you know you can trust. So a will is a legal document that ensures your wishes are fulfilled when you pass away. And that's what I had the hardest time when I was out here networking. And one lady said, I'm not going to pass away. I'm not going to die soon. Well, COVID happened. You never know when you're going to need that. So the common myth is that you don't have enough assets to need a will, but in reality, everyone needs a will. And Pete mentioned 68% of people don't have a will. That means only 32% have a will. A lot of them believe that they can't afford a will. So they try to do a DIY, do it yourself. That's not good. You need a lawyer to actually give you that professional will preparation. So only 32% of people have a will to protect their legacy. And I'm going to go on to my second point. What happens without a will? I think they call it intestines. So that's when the state decides who gets your assets, not you. Do you want the state to take over everything that you work so hard for? I know I don't. And including your business. Your business is also something that you work so hard to create, making sure that your business is included in that will, that you leave it with somebody that you can trust and know that they're going to take care of it, as well as your children. You have children, you have grown adults, and then they start fighting over everything. So having access to that, to making sure that you put your wishes in there in some kind of form of a legal love letter, a will, estate planning. So what I talked about as far as my family, it can cause family disputes and long legal battles. That means that it goes into probate. You do not want your, you don't want your all your stuff to go into probate because it takes years to get out of that. But you know, this is what's happened. I have clients that happened to. He's still fighting with probate because his sister wanted something that the father died years ago. So they're still going through it. But if you have minor children, the court decides your guardian. That's what happens when you don't have a will. You don't want the court to decide where your children should go. You want your children to go to the right person, and you know who you can trust. So the third point I want to make is the key benefits of having a will. Control. You decide who your assets are distributed. Just like I have two daughters, and I know but they wouldn't fight over it, but I put it in my will as well. So my business, our business, we put it in the will who want to take over that business. Protecting your loved ones. So appoint guardians for your children or dependents. That's what you put in your will. You appoint those guardians in who you want to have your children. My daughters were going back and forth with that. Do they want to give them to the godchildren? They want to give to Nana and Granddad? I said, I'm too old to be taking over this. So they actually have their friends or their other family members to take over. But I'm always there to be with them. But it also minimizes taxes and costs. So it helps reduce estate taxes and legal fees. That is why it's so important to have that will. And years ago, I named this legal love letter. This is your legal love letter to your family. So having that legal love letter to your family to be able to have everything in place, that makes a really big difference. It doesn't matter how old you are. I just lost a niece at 39 years old. Who knew that she was going to die at 39 years old? So there's no age. But having a will, which is also free with our company, you actually get that. So in conclusion, make sure you get your will signed and notarized. It means nothing but a piece of paper. And I want to say, and then, make sure you get a note. But Warren Buffett says, review your will with your loved ones before signing it. This way, it avoids disputes among family members after the passing of your loved one. Final thought is a will is not for you, it's for the people you love. This is your legal love letter to your family. Don't wait. Take action today to create or update your will. And you should update your will every 1 or 2 years to make sure everything's updated in there. So thank you, Pete. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Wanda.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming and being with our community. Thank you so much. Yes, it's important to be in the 30% category. And if you'd like to go, you can go to pkane.me/Wanda Pearson to set up an appointment with Wanda, because you want to be able to think ahead. I know it's hard. I don't know of anybody that makes it out of this life alive. So we're all going to pass. Let's pass that love letter to our family. Okay, the next one, we're going to talk about, I'm going to talk about podcasting, publishing, and building thriving communities, but just for a short while, because I want to get to the next slide, which is really what our recent elections told us. Now, no matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican, that's not the point. The point is we spend a lot of money at each elections, and they always tell us what trends are out there, what's going on. And for y'all looking and listening out there, why did Kamala lose and why did Trump win? Whether you're Republican or Democrat, there's a lesson in this. One person did 40 hours of podcasting. One did just a few, probably very few. One wanted to control the narrative and limit the questions. One just put himself out there. One was on the Joe Rogan show for 3 hours. You can't fool anybody for 3 hours. So I want to challenge you to look at our recent elections and see the impact that podcasting had on the election. Was that the sole reason? Of course not. But it was a way for one candidate to communicate to the world who that person was, and the other one was depending on old legacy media. We have shifted out of controlled media, where now podcasting is growing fast. When was the best time to get into podcasting? 2 years ago. When's the next best time to get into podcasting? Now. So your journey of putting your message out there can happen today. Book a podcast on our be a guest on our podcast so you can experience the power of podcasting. You can experience the power of publishing your authoritative book, being in a magazine with 20 people, a community of like-minded people that those like-minded people are on the same journey as you, but you're doing it as a community. You're doing as a group of people that are doing a common thing, getting the new media, which is podcasting, out and being able to launch your podcast. Like Phil said, when in our conversation, I asked him, I said, well, how long have you wanted to do a podcast? And he said 1.5 years. And we all think, hey, I want to start a podcast. We don't know where to start. It's like, do I buy a mic? Do I do this? Do I do that? No, just start. But to try it out is to be a guest on our podcast. And when you're a guest on the podcast, you get a feel of the power of it. So learn from our recent election how if you put yourself out there and you give people an opportunity to get to know you, like you, and trust you, there's a better chance of them doing business with you. Okay, now the next one we're going to talk about PTSD because I ran over, I think. It's hard to keep me at 5 minutes, but I'm trying. Okay, the last one we're going to do one after this, PTSD versus PTSG. I had a person on my podcast, and he had an incredible story. Christian, growing up in a concentration camp in Russia at 5 years old definitely shapes your mindset. Most kids are not in a concentration camp at 5 years old. But what happened was the trauma created an opportunity for him to grow. So if you're going through a tough time in your life right now, you're in the storm, whatever it is, or you're stressed out, there's an opportunity for you to grow. We call it honor the struggle because when we go through trauma, if we put our mindset of growth on there, what did I learn? How can I grow from this trauma? We put ourselves on a different path, and that path is growth, personal growth. That's why our sponsor is Growth Day, because we believe in personal development for us, then our team, then our community. Because if you can have a gentleman by the name of Brendan Bouchard speak to you each day, we do it for 7 days for free. You can try it out at pkane.me/growth day. Try it for free for 7 days. It's kind of like going to Costco and sampling to see if you like it. But if you can have somebody that's trained the celebrities, the A-listers, the Olympic athletes, presidents, billionaires, these are people that he has worked with. Now, if you can't afford $1 million a year or whatever his fee is, it's expensive. Maybe you can afford to try out Growth Day for a couple dollars a month. So have him speak to you for 7 days, experience what a person of his caliber can help you grow. And we call it the 5 to Thrive. So try that out. Okay, now I'm going to skip the workshop and I'm going to talk to my community about being a brand ambassador. There's a lot of things that we do in our community. One of the things is we allow people to be a brand ambassador. That means we help each other. And we have anywhere from 10 to 50% in our community. That's our 10 steps that allow people to share what we're doing. Instead of putting our names on billboards, we would rather our community share us. So if they share us, they can participate in the revenue because we're all in business for ourselves. And if you're not watching and keeping a close eye on cash flow, you're not going to be around very long because cash flow is so important. Leads are so important. That's why we promote podcasting, publishing, and building thriving communities locally and globally. So go to pkane.me/ambassador to know more about our ambassador program. And we are almost over. I think we are. So thank you so much. We try to end on time. We're 2 minutes over. So I want to thank Kevin Bora. Kevin Bora, you can't see him because he's working behind the scenes. This is a gentleman that understands service, who understands. You come here on Sunday morning, you're going to see him absolutely behind the scenes, making sure everything flows. Because there are people that are out here like myself that you see more often. And then there are people behind the scenes that are working things to make sure it flows smoothly. And when I came this morning, he figured it out again, worked on the flow because it's holiday weekend or holiday week and everybody's on vacation. So we didn't have our normal speakers and our normal crowd here. So he worked it out and he does that. So we want to thank Kevin Bora for his work with us. And I want to thank Grace Church. So if you're looking for a place, let's just say something's been tugging on your heart and that spiritual growth has been stymied over the years, and you want to kind of pursue a growth path for spirituality, well, come on and check us out. We're here on Sunday morning, right by the mall, So if you search Grace Church, Town Center, you'll find that we meet on Sunday. And I'm in a core group on Tuesday night. So with some guys, we're trying to figure out life. We don't have it figured out, I'll tell you that. But we're trying to do it together as a community. And David Black is our pastor. He'll be able to help feed you with a message each time he's up here. So come and meet David, come meet Kevin, come and meet me. I think I'm greeting this Sunday. So if you come this Sunday, you'll see me. I'll have a name tag on. So if you forget my name, you just have to look at my name tag. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate you. Please share this. If you know of people that would want a better avenue to get their message out there, and they are kind of thinking along the lines of podcasting, they don't know what it's all about, they don't know where to start, you can start with our community. Go to PeteKane.me and be a guest on our podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much. Any comments, anything? If you want to send a support ticket at support@PeteKane.me, we'll answer it right away. I appreciate you being here. Thank you.